Hello, this is Dr. Asan Abdullah with the course Web Applications Programming. And the topic which we are covering is PHP Programming, which is advanced as compared to PHP Basics, which was topic number 9. So, topic number 10 is divided into topic 10A, 10B, and 10C. This is 10C. And in this topic, we will specifically be working on some interesting implementations, coded implementation of PHP, and I will explain the code to you. And like other videos which have been using and supported by the supplemental website. The same is for this video also supplemented by the website easymcq.com/goget. Easymcq.com is a personalized learning management system, and I urge you to look at the videos, 6 videos, which explain and which show that how it's beneficial. And the approach is the question and answer based approach along with the traditional approach. More stress on the question and answer based approach because it's proactive and it is engaging and it solves real life problems. So these are the list of topics which are covered in this course. And topic number 10 is the topic which we are covering, which is PHP programming. And that topic is further divided into 15 questions and answers. And all of the questions and answers basically are concepts. So the first 5 question and answers are covered in the lecture 10A, and the next 5 are covered in 10B, and the last 5 are covered in 10C. So now we move to the supplemental website and work on the question and answers as per the lecture. So now we are at the 10C video for PHP programming, and this is the PHP programming, and this is the last part of PHP programming. And this part 10C that has all coding examples, and these coding examples are not difficult, but they are slightly challenging as compared to the ones which we looked in videos or topic number 9. So how to create a simple guest book with file storage using PHP. So guest book is basically you know what a guest book is. So it's a place where people come and give their feedback and comments, and those are recorded and other people reply to them and so on. So of course there can be many features in guest book, and in this Q&A we will not be looking at many features but the basic concepts. So we will have a working guest book and with file storage. So the comments and the feedback will be stored in a file instead of a database. Of course you can have a database also, and you can have many other things also. So the code, I'll show you the code also, and I'll explain the code also. So how do we go about? We go about, first of all, we have to have a page structure, and that structure is defined, and we will discuss this. And then the data handling, how the data is handled, how it is stored. For this we'll use the JSON format, and I will explain it to you briefly what that format is. And then you submit the form. So you write your name and your message and submit it. And then there is a message form in which the messages appear, right? And of course the messages appear with reference to the messages for which the reply was made. And so that's the message form, and the messages are displayed and messages are output. So we have a page structure. So the page structure, an HTML page, you can have any title here, and it has a form for submitting the messages, and a section display all previous messages with the replies so that everything is linked together. So what is the data file? So you see that there's a data file, there is no database, it's a data file. So JavaScript object notation file format we are using. Why? Because it is lightweight, it is very simple, and it is human readable also, and it does not requires SQL knowledge. And the file name is guestbook.json, right? So that is the file in which those messages are stored. And as part of data handling, the messages are loaded also. If the file exists, it's read and decoded into a PHP array, dollar messages. And furthermore, let me clean this. So loading the messages, reply handling. If a reply to parameter is present in the URL, okay, it means that there is a reply to an existing message. And then the form is submitted. So you put the message and submit the form, and that form is submitted via post that we have discussed a lot. And in that post is the name of the submitter, the message, and the optional parent for the replies. And sanitization is done so as to prevent injection attacks. And unique ID is given, and the timestamp is given as per the time so that it can be identified. And a new message is added. So we have that two files are working, and then we have this guest2.php file that prevents form resubmission on refresh. So displaying the message, a recursive function display message is used, right? So it is calling itself, and then messages are indented using the ampersand NB. So this is the HTML white space so that it is readable, and then there's the message output. And if there is no message, then no messages are displayed. So this is how it looks like. And let me run it for you. And here is the code for to implement this guest book. Of course, this guest book has a number of issues, and I will mention those issues to you shortly. So what I've done is I've cleared the JSON file, okay, and we uh, start with the blank file. So for example, say with the name is Sam, and I ask the question, how is going with the assignment, okay, and post the message. So Sam has posted the message. This is the time and the date. And then of course, uh, for example, Tom replies that very busy now, say for example, and posts a message. So this message is from Tom, okay. And then there is a message from, say again, from Sam. Say, what are you doing? Okay. So the nesting is so if I click on Sam, okay, and Tom, so replying to message. So now I want to reply to this message, and I say that what is happening, name, okay, Sam. Tom says, I'm sorry about that. Okay, Tony comes in, and Tony says what is happening. So what is Tony replying to? Tony is replying to the message of Tom. And if you look at replying to Tony message, Sam comes in and say doing PHP coding. So see that this is the hierarchy here, right? So this is fairly nice, and I would suggest that you look into it. And of course, it is very difficult to confirm that the message who was replying, the person is Sam, or anybody can use the name Sam or Tony, right? So that needs to be addressed. So this is how it works. So now we move to the next question. So we close it. The next question is how to create a simple CAPTCHA generator with file storage. File storage, again, not using a database. With file storage using PHP, give and explain the code. So what we are looking at, so we have a CAPTCHA, we have a file which creates a CAPTCHA, okay, and that file creates a CAPTCHA, and you know that CAPTCHA is an image, so there's an image is created. That's very smart way of creating an image, and noise is added to that image, and that image has certain characters which are already defined, and from that those defined characters are randomly selected, so it's your choice how much variation you want there. And then there is another file, verify.php, which basically checks and takes actions accordingly if there's a match or a mismatch, but there is no backend database. That should be remembered. So how do you go about wherever you want to implement it? First of all, you need to create a folder, capture underscore project. If you change the name, then you have to make the corresponding changes elsewhere also. And inside that folder, create a folder named captchas, and in that folder, images will be stored. Okay, and ensure that the captcha folder with the images has read write privileges. As per cpanel, the code is 0755 or 755 also. And both these files, captcha.php and verify.php, are should be saved in the folder captcha underscore project. So what is inside captcha session? So there is a session, okay, can be stored and accessed across the pages. So captcha session is accessed across the verify page also. And cache prevention headers. uh, why we are using this captcha under dash control pragma expires, you setting the timing also, because you want fresh page to be loaded. What happens, because if fresh page is not loaded, since we are working with images, so the operating system by default is going to use the image from the cache, and that is the old image, and what the way it has been coded is to generate a new captcha. So that's why we want this pragma, and we want the page, and we want a new image to be loaded. Captcha text generation, a random 6 character string of uppercase letters and digits is created using the substring. Why? Because that's the way it was stored. And string shuffle. I'll show you the code. And store the captcha in the session variable which we had declared. We have spoken a lot, talked a lot, looked at many examples of the session variable. So what happens is that a 150 by 50 pixel image is created. Okay, background and text colors are set. So right now there were no colors were assigned. It's black and white. So you can add these colors, and you can have this noise or distortion as per your liking. And then the capture text is drawn on the image. So why all that noise and colors are added? So that makes a robot or a machine to have to pose a difficulty. And that is stored as a png file. And then when you are done, you destroy the image and so on. And then the results are displayed. So this is the first part, a captcha. So you see that it's quite an effort. And then of course is the part where you verify it. So again, start a session, right, to access the previously stored captcha text, and check the request method. It was a submission was made. Get the user input, ask the user to give the input, compare the both of them, right? Remember that we are now, you must be wondering that what's the point in showing the image, because that makes the task difficult. Okay, you need to convert. If it's a robot, it needs to convert the captcha image into text, and with noise it becomes difficult. So we don't show is a text. We can show it very simple. All right. So if you do a back button, leads back to the PHP page for a new captcha, so that it becomes more difficult. If it doesn't match, then of course there is an error message in red, and if it matches, then it's a green text message. And redirect on wrong request type. If the page is accessed by any method other than post, okay, it automatically redirects to PHP to ensure proper flow. So I'll show you the actual running application also. So this is the image capture, and you enter a wrong message and incorrect. This is the message you get. Then you give the right correct message, and verified capture verified successfully. So this is the code here, and you can copy this code and run it yourself. And this is what I was mentioning, so it is up to you. So so you can have lowercase here also, you can have special characters also. Okay, and of course you can make it more difficult by, instead of 6 you can have more 7 or whatever, so it's your choice. And these are the colors and everything, so it's up to you how difficult you want to make it. So there are many benefits of this approach, because I recall I had some program got hold of a page of an address and started sending like, probably, I don't know, hundreds of emails on a daily basis. So after some time, so I had to put a captcha there so as to prevent it. There are other simple ways also, but this is more elegant way. All right. So we move on to, now we would like to create certain graphs, okay, of the data. Because as the saying goes, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So let's start with a simple bar chart, okay? And how to create a bar chart with complete labeling using PHP and JavaScript. So we will use the next topic is JavaScript. So we are like kind of getting ready to use JavaScript, okay? And starting with the graph. So first of all, we need to prepare the data. Now again, for the sake of simplicity, the data is loaded into an array, but realistically the data should be loaded from a database. So this is the same data, same example data with which we have been working and which is shown in topic number 15. So prepare the data, load it into an array inside that code which you will be running, and then include chart.js, give its address. There are other ways of also creating the graphs. And of course, then you render the chart, create the chart. So a bar chart with complete labeling using PHP and chart.js. So what's going to happen is that PHP will handle the data, collect the data, do the counting, and prepare it for visualization and everything. And chart.js will be used to create the bar chart, okay, with labeling and everything and tooltips. So this results in efficient dynamic web application. All right. The next Q&A, we will make it more dynamic. And PHP is going to be used for aggregating the data, such as counting the number of items, students, and everything. And of course, if we were using connecting it with the database, then we would have using the group by clauses there. Okay. And you can set the font and the type and the size and also. So what else PHP is doing is to extract and process raw data in a form which is suitable for visualization. And since we are using we are going to make a bar chart, so bar chart works with categorical values like the major of the student. Okay. And of course we would like to use JSON because JavaScript understands it, right? But remember that we are not, this is still a two-tier application, right? So in your my expectations from you in your project is that that is going to be a three-tier application with backend database using SQL. So what does chart.js does is a client-side JavaScript library. Okay, it's a client-side library, and in an HTML canvas element, canvas is the space in which HTML will be used to draw the image, right? And this image doesn't have any recognition, so to say, that what is there. And bar charts that represent histograms, well, histograms are truly used in the context of frequency histograms, which is the next Q&A. But this here we are content with calling it a bar chart. All right. So rendering is done using the chart.js API, and the coloring and the tooltips are there. So this is how it looks like. So this is the data. This is the data from the database. This is exact data which we have been working, and which is in the database student table in topic number 15. And this is loaded in this in an array, right? And the counting was done. The question was that number of students with a certain major. So you can count the number of records here. So there are four students with a major of food, and then two with the music and so on. So this is how that library was called, chart.js. There are other ways of doing this also. Okay, then you set the font and the color and everything, and of course you can add more to it. So it's fairly simple. There is no database connectivity. Okay, so let me show you how this looks nice. Let me show you more. Okay, so we have the tooltip here, you can see, right? And maybe on a phone that tooltip might not be working. All right. So, but the problem here is that you have to scroll to see all of it. Number of students are here. So, other way of doing is to center it, add certain padding at top and bottom, left and right. And of course, you can change the colors also and change the font and everything. So it's all up to you. All right. So this was a bar chart. Now, what we are going to do now is we are going to make a frequency histogram. Frequency is a big difference between a bar chart and a frequency histogram, because a bar chart works with categorical values and a frequency histogram works with numbers. And so, what is the difference between a bar chart and a frequency histogram? That's I'm going to tell you. And then we are going to use the same data, right, and create a frequency histogram which is different from a bar chart. And these things become very handy if you are doing some work in the context of data science. So bar chart and frequency histogram. Bar chart used for categorical data like colors and countries and measures like food and music. The measures was there. Bars are separated with space between them. As a matter of fact, it doesn't carry a lot of meaning. And those categories on the x-axis are discrete categories: music versus food versus biology. And the bar width is arbitrary, it's not meaningful. So the bar width is carries lots of meaning in a frequency histogram, and categories can be reordered. So for example, number of students in each major, example math, music and food. All right. So now let's look at frequency histogram. So that works with numerical values. Bar chart was working with categorical data. And here it is grouped into intervals, bins, histogram. So bin size is 0 to 10, 11 to 20. Of course, that bin size can change also. And represents the interval. So the bin size represents the interval, right? And the number of students in this case, because we are working with student IDs, because the data which I showed you, there were no other numeric values there. So this is how we compare them. So we have the data type is categorical in bar chart. In histogram, which we're going to do, is numerical and continuous. Bars touch, no, but bars touch here, yes, of course, because of the ranges. X-axis are categories. Here they are the bins, 0 to 100, 101 to 200. And of course, compare categories, show distribution, how the data is being distributed. So that brings out, that tells us it's Gaussian, it's not Gaussian, it is like there are issues with the data, whatever, which just do not come up if we just look at the tabular data. Order of bars is fixed in bar chart, but histogram, it depends upon the values. So we are going to have very exciting two Q&As. One is, first of all, we are going to create a frequency histogram, and then we are going to use an API to read the weather data and act accordingly. So let's move ahead. So now that we know the difference between a bar chart and a frequency distribution histogram, so let's create a frequency distribution histogram. And I said that has many powerful applications in the context of data quality and data science also. So how do we go about creating a frequency histogram? The code consists of three parts. One is the HP section, okay, and I'll tell you what is meant by the. Basically, this is the. I'm sorry, this is the. So now that we know the difference between a bar chart and a frequency histogram, so let's now use the same data to create a frequency histogram. Although the data which we'll be using does not make a lot of sense in the context of frequency histogram, but the concept becomes clear. So the code consists of three parts. One is the PHP section, which I'll explain, and then is the HTML and the CSS section, and then of course is the JavaScript section. Now you may be wondering that why I've called using JavaScript, because the next topic is JavaScript. So just setting the direction. So in the PHP section, we have the students data, and we store the students data in the JSON format. Why? Because there are a number of methods in JavaScript which support, and they are built-in functions also. Then is the HTML and the CSS part. So what we do is that unlike the previous figure, which was not properly centered and positioned, this time we center it, give it a title, and of course we have a range slider also. So what the range slider will do is that it will set the range of the numbers for which uh, the frequency histogram is going to be made. So that is going to that can bring out hidden patterns also, instead of working with fixed values. And of course a chart will be created, and then of course loads the SID array into JS. Now the data which we were using doesn't have the numerical values, integer values. So for the sake of understanding, we use the student ID. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but it does creates the graphs. So loads the SID array into JS JavaScript, and then there are 2 points, 3a and 3b. Update histogram bin size. So it creates the bin sizes, and the bin sizes has a certain range also, and tallies how many seeds fall into each bin. So if the bin size is larger, then of course different number of seeds are going to fall in, and if the bin size is small, then different number are going to fall in, and then destroys any existing chart and redraws it. So that is the beauty of it, that it will create dynamic charts instead of static charts. And then is the slider listener. Now the slider listener basically updates the chart live, right, when the user moves the bin size slider. And why it can do that? Because the DOM element you want to attach to the event, and then there are the events, which is a click, mouse over, key down, etc. In our case, we will do a mouse click and move the slider, and then the callback function to run when the event occurs. So it will dynamically change, right? I will show you. So this is a picture of what it looks like for bin size 50. So you see the bin size is 0 to 49, so bin size is 50, then there are no values 50 to 99 and so on. So these are basically based upon the SID values, student IDs. And this is the code, right? And you can see these are the student IDs here. So in this case, we didn't had any other integer values. So this is the SID histogram, and this is the script which was externally being called. All right, and here we have the code for the histogram, and here the colors and everything, the font sizes. All right, and then are the elements being called. Okay, all right, the elements being called, element called by the ID. All right, and the fonts are set here. Okay, so let's look at the actual thing. So this is the actual one, right? And as I move it, right? You see that the bin size is 60 and we have 4 bars, okay? And the bin size is 30, so we have different number of bars, so 0 to 29, and then of course we have 32, I believe 49, and so on. So you see that by virtue of this different bin size, we can have a better understanding of the data itself. This is very powerful. Okay, so that's it for this. Now we move on to the last Q&A, which is using an API. So we move to the next and the last Q&A, how to create a front end app that consumes a weather API. Okay, so it will take the weather data from some website through API and displays, and that's the forecasted data, and that will display it for the selected cities. Will ask question in exam. So there's going to be a question in the exam from this concept. So what's going to happen? So first of all, we need to configure. So go to you can go to any website, all right, which can provide you a weather API and a code. Better get one which doesn't charge any money. And then of course handle the user selection. You make the selections and everything. I will explain it. And then fetch the weather data. Get the weather data from that website, that weather website. Parse that data, store the results, okay, and then use those results to generate HTML output with PHP and generate corresponding image also. All right, so how does it works? So configuration is that API key. So you need to get a key from that weather website by payment or by free. So I got it for free, and the address is given in the code in the PDF file. And then there are cities in which I'm interested. You can have other cities also, and the cities from which the user can choose from. Handle the user selection. So if a valid city is selected, then sent via the get method, and encodes to here I've used the weather stack API. Okay, fetch the weather data. All right, and then make the CURL request to the weather stack API. What it will do is that it will generate a JSON response which will be parsed. So if the response is valid, okay, and the response is valid, then it will provide the necessary data, city name, country, temperature, and of course. And if there is an error, then that error message will be displayed. Now the question is, what kind of error will be there? You need to think about it. You need to work on it. So what I have done here is that there is a drop down menu. So these city names are in a drop down menu, and those city names are selected from the drop down menu. And if the weather data is available, then it is showed by a styled card. What is a styled card? This is a styled card. So there's the name of the city, the country, and there's an image here, weather data here. If an error occurred, it shows a red error message. It won't show a style card. So here is the code. Put your key here, and weatherstack.com. I have used this website. You can use this one or any other. All right. The working of the code has been explained above, and there will be a question in the exam. Okay. So now let's look at the working and running of this code. All right, so this is the weather which I looked at the last time. So if I get the forecast right now, so it changes. It changed because when I looked at it, it was like a couple of hours ago. So I changed the city to Tokyo, and get a forecast and so on. So this is the way it works. So with this we end topic number 10C. Thank you very much.